Some big name holdouts as NFL mini camps open around the NFL. What's going on with TJ Watt, Jaylen Ramsey, Trey Hendrickson, and a lot more on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for hanging out with us as we do our thing daily on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day is what we do. Love our everydayers, so please subscribe on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts and get those questions in either on the YouTube comments or on Twitter for this week's mailbag episode. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. And right now, FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Just go to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we got some holdouts and a big name one in your neck of the woods there. I've also got to ask you, what did Aaron Rodgers look like at Steelers camp? And I don't know if I didn't see this one coming. I don't know if you knew that this was going to happen, but TJ Watt apparently holding out from Steelers mini camp, Matt.
So full disclosure, I kind of got my wires crossed today. So all the OTAs, they would practice from 10 to noon, and then a player would come off and join us, and we were on the radio right next door, right on the sidelines there from 10 to 1. Well, today and the next 2 days, I'm going to be on the, all week, I'll be there from 10 to 1, but they changed the practice schedule on us, and they made it more like their NFL week-to-week practice, where around 10 when we are on the air, they all come out and walk through, and then they go in, eat lunch, meetings, come back out at 1, right when we're coming off the air. And to be honest, for me to come and chat with you in my home, I had to leave there at 1, so I didn't see the practice part of day 1. But I watched the walkthrough stuff, and that's he didn't throw one pass in his first walkthrough. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
But he just sat there with the quarterback coach 6 inches apart from each other. I was totally focused on Rodgers, to be honest. And to be honest, there was a little bit of fanboy. Like, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's right next to me. That's cool,
Did he walk during walkthroughs?
What's that?
Did he walk during walkthroughs?
He walked during walkthroughs and just kind of watched while Rudolph ran with the ones. Again, just during walkthroughs. But you could tell heavily engaged with like how they're doing everything and pointing, and those guys were jotting down notes, and it was good to see. And I assume he threw in practice. I can report on that later in the week. But there was I've rarely seen the Steelers facility like that, where no parking, national media, some of the local media that don't usually show up, all the streets are lined with people. I mean, it was like Santa Claus came to town. It was a little nuts.
So we're going to have to wait 24 more hours to get one of those like slow motion, zoomed in Aaron Rodgers spirals from
right, like NFL films. Oh, there were all the cameras were out. You'll get a lot of that stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah. TJ Watt though, no TJ Watt. He saw Myles Garrett getting $40 million a year and said, "Hold on a second, let's talk about this."
I think that's the biggest news right now in minicamp are the holdouts, or the guys that didn't show up. Because just to reiterate this, I'm not sure all of our listeners are dialed in with the CBA, but the last 2 weeks, if you don't show up, well, so cares. It's voluntary. These you will get fined, and the team can't, pull that back. That you will pay the fines. This is just an NFL mandated situation. So I figured Watt would show up. Now I don't think there's any bad blood. Like we'll get to Trey Hendrickson. I think that one's a lot more contentious. That I think they're all buddies. Maybe he just doesn't want to get injured. I never got a reason why he's not there, but no one in the organization seems concerned about him getting signed to a long-term deal. Maybe it doesn't happen this week and it goes into training camp, the Steelers have a habit of doing that, which I think is a really good business practice, and other teams do it too. But you get into training camp, it's hot, everyone's tired, everyone's kind of sick of looking at each other, and you give someone a nice, huge contract, and all of a sudden the locker room picks up. You know what I mean? And Watt's last contract time up, he held in at training camp. He was there but didn't do anything. And frankly, myself and others close to the organization thought, good, just don't get hurt. You know what I mean? All right, yeah.
And we do have some hold-ins, I think, in some of these cases as well. So TJ Watt, not contentious, but
I'm not concerned yet.
Yeah.
You know,
deal, and we'll see. And as long as he's there for camp and signed up, I'm sure everything's gonna be fine there with the Steelers and TJ Watt. We got to go to the Bengals then and Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, that one's hairier, especially with both these guys being out with a first-round pick and Hendrickson, and what's going on there?
Yeah. Obviously there's bad blood with Cincinnati and Trey Hendrickson, and he's holding out of minicamp according to Adam Schefter, and we kind of expected that, and so Hendrickson had been granted permission to seek trade offers too. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen. And here's the thing: is the Cincinnati Bengals signed the heir apparent to, or drafted the heir apparent to him in first round edge rusher Shemar Stewart, who is also not participating. He's kind of doing the hold in. He's there.
Yeah.
And we saw this at OTAs too. He was standing there. He was standing there in the stretch line, but not stretching. It looked like his jersey. It's a weirdest situation. So one of the I think I did see that Walter Nolan had signed his contract. I'm not sure if Shemar Stewart's the last one, but even those other players,
he's the most notable for sure.
Well, the other guys were still doing OTA stuff.
They were doing
so Shemar Stewart's still not participating in anything. And
I know it's only June, but this worries me.
Yeah, this is a weird one, and the Bengals kind of tend to have the weird stuff happening. And now the guy that is supposed to be across from Hendrickson, so they got neither one of them, right? These are supposed to be your starting defensive ends in week 1.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe I'm missing somebody, but the last time I remember something of this situation was Joey Bosa's rookie year with the Chargers, where he had upheaval about the language. What if you get hurt in minicamp?
Language, right?
Yeah, but he was the only one out of 32, just like this one is like the only one out of the 32, which makes me kind of blame the team more than the player and agent, especially considering the team that it is. And I will tell you, for right or wrong, you don't want to get dug in on your stance against the Bengals because they don't budge. And that applies to Hendrickson and Stewart. I mean, they are rock solid with their conviction, and they've proven that year after year after year. But this worries me. I mean, it worries me a lot because I very much believe that in order to get better at developing your early round defensive talent, especially Stewart, who has so much ability, you need help from the players as well as the staff and role models and things of that nature. And you guys know I'll bring it back to the Steelers, but Derek Harmon's following Cam Hayward around like a puppy. That's exactly what you should do. I mean, that's ideal role model.
Michael Williams and Nick Bosa in 49ers.
Exactly.
That's all it was, right? And so it's such an important thing.
So I would love Stewart to be, if Trey Hendrickson gets a salad for lunch, get a salad for lunch. You know what I mean? Just whatever it takes. Be like that guy. And he is being like that guy and not playing.
Yeah, that's a mentorship right there. I wonder if they are having salads together.
Right. Talking about how they're not playing.
And there's actually a quote from Shemar Stewart when asked by ESPN how long the situation could last. He did say, quote, "In my case, I'm 100% right. I'm not asking for nothing that's never been done before. In their case, y'all just want to win an argument instead of winning more games, in my opinion."
People think I bash the Bengals because I'm a Steelers guy, but I've been around this game long enough that I think that's very Bengals-like and the Brown family-like, that I don't think that there's lies being told here by the youngster. I mean, I really think that that's kind of how the Bengals operate, and that could be really frustrating, I imagine. I'll be very honest. I don't quite understand his holdout like I do the veterans. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not versed in the language. I don't know exactly what the sticking point is. but it seems really weird that one team. I mean, to his point, I'm not asking for much here. I'm just a first round pick wanting to sign a standard contract like everybody else. What are we doing? Right.
Exactly. And so ugly situation there with the Cincinnati Bengals. We've got a hold in Dallas, Jaylen Ramsey, a whole lot more to talk about. And some guys that might be holdouts are actually in camp as well. And then we'll talk about Jaire Alexander, Nick Chubb, and more NFL news as mini camps are open next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. NBA Finals, they're here. Full swing every night. Highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, series-changing plays, and can't miss moments. And whether it's a game-winning shot or breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game. Before tip-off and live during games. Player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And how about $200 in bonus bets to add to the excitement if your first $5 bet hits? And maybe you got to read on who's heating up during a game. Why not back it up with that same game parlay? And of course, you can bet on a lot of NFL football as well for the 2025 season. Rookie props, who's going to win the next Super Bowl, weekly lines already up at FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So Micah Parsons is another one who is eyeing that
Miles right
contract and thinking, ooh, $40 million per year. Okay, let's get this going. He's seeking that extension, but as of now, they haven't figured it out. And Coach Brian Schottenheimer said that Micah Parsons has remained connected to the team. If he has not attended everything, perhaps showing up to the minicamp can jumpstart the contract talks. But as of now, it's looking like a hold-in situation potentially for Micah Parsons.
I would think that's the best way to go in this situation. I mean, his is going to be a bigger deal than Watt's. It's his first contract extension. I mean, he's younger. They haven't been through this before like the Steelers have. The Garrett precedence is already out there. I would think Parsons could eclipse that, where I don't think Watt will. And I do think it gets done. I think he's the most valuable defensive player in the league when you factor in age and what he's done on the field. And a hold in is not a nasty situation 9 out of 10 times. You're in the building, you're on the sidelines laughing and joking with coaches and players or eating lunch with them. I mean, it's not like you got the dunce cap on in the corner or anything,
In some ways, I think it could end up being, I think we saw a little bit of this last year with Brandon Ayuk, and it's like, it almost caused more of a distraction.
I say sometimes it can be a distraction though,
because like just get out of here, like be here or not be here. The wishy-washiness isn't always great, and a lot of times it's just like they are trying to do the holdout but still not get fined, and so I think you go both ways for sure. There's not a hold. I feel like Hassan Reddick's been like involved in years-long holdouts, right? Has he been on
such a weird couple of years for him?
Yeah. So he's with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now, if you don't remember. And he had skipped OTAs, but did participate in the first day of minicamp. So Hassan Reddick is at minicamp now, and hopefully they can figure out that thing. I
think there's no smoke or fire there. I mean, he's with a new team and kind of had to learn his lesson.
There are a few names of players that you thought might be holdouts, might be trying to either get traded, try to get a new contract, different things from different players and what they're trying to accomplish. Kirk Cousins is the one that everyone had an eye on. He is attending the first day of minicamp and, just probably doesn't want to get fined. He still wants to be a starting quarterback, but he also doesn't want to be fined. And right now he's going to be the backup in minicamp to Michael Penix. And maybe there might be able to be a deal facilitated. Maybe you have to have a quarterback injury somewhere though for that to happen.
Yeah, I can't find a landing spot now that Rodgers is in Pittsburgh that's obvious. Doesn't this one scream to you like I don't really want to get fined? I would hold out. It's not worth losing money over. I got a big contract, and so I'll be there and do what I do.
And also, I think making the team pay you gives the team incentive to trade you potentially in this situation.
Yeah. And I don't think he's using it as I'm going to be a distraction and be a pain in the butt so I get out of here. I think he's a high-class dude, obviously. But I did want to rewind 1 second, though. Like you mentioned the Ayuk hold in, and we were talking about Parsons. One of the things that teammates really dislike is some reporters sticking a microphone in Dak Prescott's face or CD Lamb's face saying, well, what about Micah Parsons, who's 20 feet away from you and you have to comment about your buddy teammate? You know, like they hate that stuff, and they should.
George Kittle had one of those last.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't talk to me, man, about this. Is like this.
What do I have to do with it? Right.
Yeah. It's not
my business, man. Right.
James Cook attended the first day of minicamp for the Buffalo Bills, looking for a new contract, and he's in-house. So that's good news for the Bills.
He sure seems like he's asking for a lot, though. I mean, I don't know what'll get done there. I'm curious what that contract ends up when and if it happens in Buffalo, because it sounds like he's aiming like Saquon level, and I might be out shooting himself a little bit, you know.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the Miami Dolphins. Jaylen Ramsey.
I don't think good things.
Right. There's been rumors of a trade, but nothing's happened. And I think contractually they had to wait until post June 1st, which we are now over a week after June 1st, and still no trades have happened. So another team might have wanted Jaylen Ramsey at their mini camp, but he's still a Miami Dolphin, but kind of not really, and not with the team. So we're waiting on a trade here.
From what I understand with Ramsey, as opposed to Jonnu Smith, is they gave him an excused absence.
Yeah, they're like, we're working on a
won't
trade.
Be a fine.
Stay away. Jonnu Smith, there's been rumors of a trade, and he is skipping minicamp, but that one's unexcused.
So he's going to get fined. I should open the show with that. Is the team can excuse you, you know, in terms of, hey, it's not that you're not welcome here, but just stay away. We're working on a trade. I wonder, I mean, June 1st is a magic number. It doesn't mean everything has to happen June 2nd in these contract situations. I'm sure we'll bring up Jaire Alexander at some point too, but I think it's really similar to Ramsey, where teams are interested. He's going to be a starting corner somewhere. It wasn't Green Bay for Alexander. I don't think it's Miami. And it makes me think you could get him real cheap right now, or there's a team or two out there knowing we're just going to wait on Miami because they can't afford him and they're going to have to cut him, unfortunately. You know, where Jonnu Smith's one that's they're going to fight over money, I think.
The other big one that we've already talked about this week was Terry McLaurin and holding out from camp and wants a new contract. And you got to think that this, just looking at the build and Terry McLaurin, how good he's been, how important he is to the team, you got to believe they're going to get a deal done here. But they haven't yet. And he's holding out. This could be one of those situations where you're hurting your young quarterback because his number one doesn't get to build that rapport with him if this goes deep into training camp potentially in preseason, and then all of a sudden, okay, well, now do you start slow in the season, and then all of a sudden, you know, a little thing can kind of drag on quite a bit in some of these situations, and so certainly one to monitor with Terry McLaurin, who absolutely deserves a better contract.
Yes, absolutely, and I think the contract I was actually looking at for him is the DK Metcalf $30 million a year type. They were both the same draft class. I think McLaurin's had a slightly better career, coming off a slightly better year, but I think that's the neighborhood you're probably looking at with McLaurin. Absolutely deserves it, and it's probably his last chance to get anything in that level of the wide receiver market. He's maybe the most important player on the team for developing the young quarterback, which is the greatest asset on the team. I think you could argue that he's their second best football player coming off a monster season. The guy's never really played with good quarterbacks until this past year. So I think everyone totally understands where he's coming from. I'm 100% in the McLaurin camp without question.
But speaking of DK
I
Metcalf,
can't imagine him getting traded though.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
Speaking of DK Metcalf, is he also in the kind of holding in mode? Like, what's up with? Because I know he was.
He didn't go to OTAs, but he was there today. He has a new contract with the Steelers after the trade. He's pretty good looking in person. You know,
he's like,
it's insane.
He's Hall of Fame, get off the bus first guy. Yeah.
There's. I remember when I was with the Browns and we played the Eagles, and I saw Terrell Owens at midfield just kind of warming up, going, that dude looks like a cartoon character. And then I saw Metcalf today, and it kind of was reminiscent. Like, he looks like Nick Herbig out there. I mean, like, he looks like an edge rusher. He is every bit what I thought he would look like in person. Like, wow.
Well, his dad was an offensive lineman, right?
Was he?
I think so. And so
I think he's a bodybuilder too.
Yeah,
his
how
dad,
did he escape playing on one of the lines being that big when he was younger?
I guess you run a 4.4 right. But yeah, he's all systems go. And Cam Hayward had a golf outing yesterday, and him and Aaron Rodgers were like teammates on the, everybody's happy, hunky dory.
Nice. All right, there we go. Just get TJ in and things looking up for the Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
One more note on Jaylen Ramsey, and if that could end like Jaire Alexander and the Green Bay Packers have, if you have any landing spots for Jaire Alexander, and one move that has also been done is the Houston Texans have signed Nick Chubb. More on those next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by Skylight Calendar. And man, I've got the Skylight picture frame, and the Skylight Calendar is going to go right next to it, because you can say goodbye to sticky notes, scribbled plans on the fridge, which is currently our system, which is not working in the Peacock household. Overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight Calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. Sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars, Google, Apple, Outlook, tons more, making it simple to track appointments, practices. If you got kids, you got a recital here, a practice over here, function over here, dinners and reminders all in one place. And how nice would it be, to eliminate the I don't know excuse from your family's routine? It's right there on this high definition, beautiful 15-inch screen with the Skylight Calendar, and you can set it up any way you want. It looks beautiful. My brother and sister-in-law have one, and I was blown away by how good it looked, and they swear by it. And right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. Go to skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/NFL. Jaire Alexander has officially been released by the Green Bay Packers. I wonder if in the end, this is how things have to end up going with Jaylen Ramsey, if you can't figure out a trade and you have to end up releasing him. And it doesn't seem like the Dolphins are there with Ramsey, but the Packers ended up getting there with Jaire Alexander. So what do you think about Alexander on the market, and are there any landing spots to you, friend?
So I always find it funny that, like, one of these players, they're looking for a trade. That comes out months ago. And then I get a million questions on Twitter. What would the Steelers have to pay for him? Or I'm sure every team gets these same questions. And people will be like, probably a second or third round pick. And then it goes on and on and on. And people don't look into the numbers and the contracts and the likelihood of getting let go in June 1st. And you realize it might be nothing. You might just compete with some other teams. And it's closer to that usually than a day 2 pick for these guys that are in really difficult contract situations that basically have to leave their team. The whole league knows these things. I've heard the contract that Alexander might be a jumping off point, which seems very, very low to me, is the one that Tre'Davious White signed with the Rams after the Bills released him because of all the injuries, and they both have been to Pro Bowls and had really good careers, but they were damaged goods of late. That seems really light for me. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they were not crazy expensive contract for White with the Rams. Because I think Alexander, despite missing a lot of games over the last 2-3 years, is still a very high-end level corner, as is Ramsey. But I think we're focusing a little bit more on Alexander. Speaking of the Rams, they seem to be the team most linked to adding a big-time corner. I think Minnesota would make a ton of sense. I saw some reports today that the Packers and Bills had some trade talks with Alexander in recent months, and there's a spot there for them even after drafting one in the first round. I haven't given it a ton of deep thought, but I could probably come up with 12 teams that could use Ramsey and Alexander, especially at a somewhat discounted rate if they're both on the open market.
There's not too many teams in the NFL that couldn't use an extra guy.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's competition or, even if you only get 7, 8, 10 games out of Alexander at the price you'd probably get him now. Sign me up. I mean, I urge everyone. I'm sure everyone's doing this with their favorite team, but I brought up both those names from the Steelers over and over. Like, why wouldn't you kick the tires?
Good.
You know what I mean? Like,
maybe the Steelers can work out a deal to get both Jonnu Smith and Jaylen Ramsey from the Miami Dolphins. Get them both. I don't know if they can
and
fit
Tyreek while you're at it.
Tyreek, yeah, who knows? Why not? Tyreek is there running around at minicamp. So
sounds like he's back to being 100% and all that.
That's the weird one. Tyreek Hill. It's like whatever month, like it's like every other month. It's like, oh, he's going to get traded. Oh no, he's good. New contract. Oh no, he's going to get traded. No, he's going to.
There's weird stuff going in Miami. I just think that's part of the deal. Their salary cap's a disaster.
Yeah,
I think there's some heat on the coaching staff, and it just seems very fragile in Miami right now, and that the organization's going the wrong direction to me.
I do like the Bills fit though for Jaire Alexander. Kind of attack that thing from all angles. You got a young draft pick, you bring in a veteran player, you get a little discount there. You've got some other guys that you've developed from within that you're competing there, and try to get that cornerback room figured out that they've been trying to work on for the last 5 years. It feels like. Yeah,
I love it. And the Rams are another one. Their front, the defensive front looks really good, but the back seven could definitely use another guy. The Ramsey McVay connection seems like an obvious one to me. And Stafford's not on his last legs, but he's not going to be around forever. I mean, contenders is what I'm looking at for those teams.
Yeah, bring it back to LA.
Yeah,
it worked out pretty well the first time.
Absolutely. Now you have to pay anything for him.
Nick Chubb has found a new home, and that is with the Houston Texans. What are your thoughts on Chubb and the Houston Texans now, and how this depth chart is coming together in Houston on offense?
I'm really rooting for him because he has suffered some major injuries, even going back to his days at Georgia. And frankly, I think he rivals Derrick Henry as one of the absolute best ball carriers of this generation. So I have great respect for his game. By all accounts, he's a really good dude, humble, blah, blah, blah. But I don't have high hopes. I mean, I really don't. And last year, he looked very sluggish and nothing like the player he was. But I guess he is one more year removed from a brutal injury. They drafted a running back in the mid-rounds who looks like the successor to Mixon. But maybe Chubb can be a real strong number 2. But the thing people don't think about, like with like Mixon and Chubb and even like J.K. Dobbins, who's still floating out there, they don't play special teams. So if you're not the lead back or a clear 40% of the touches guy, you might play the young guy over him that runs down on special teams. Like once you've kind of fallen off that plateau as a feature ball carrier, and I don't want to feature you as a ball carrier anymore, well, you're not going to help me on a lot of other ways. And he's never been a good receiver. It's not like he could just be a third down back. Like McCaffrey or Kamara could fade away slow, where I don't know that he can.
And then you look at sort of the competition. So Woody Marks, USC running back, 4th round selection, number 116 overall. A little bit different, but you look at the veterans now on the roster. You got Chubb, you got Mixon, and you still got Dameon Pierce, who they never really used. And you'd think
nobody seems to like him, right? Yeah.
What this team really needs is not another 220-pound, early down back. They need somebody to do the other thing. And so Woody Marks, the rookie, Woody Marks, the rookie, still has a big opportunity to carve out a role even with Nick Chubb there. And so, for that reason, I don't know how much Nick Chubb's even going to play. So interesting.
Right. But, I don't think he's like fantasy. I don't think like in an 18-round draft or even drafting this guy in fantasy, like he'd have to have an injury Mixon's been such a volume hound, low yards per carry guy, but he eats up a lot of the touches.
And that's what Nick Chubb would be too. So
right.
It's like, okay,
it's a little redundant.
We got Joe Mixon. If he gets hurt, then we're going to have to pair the rookie with a veteran and Nick Chubb, and Chubb will get the early work, and then Marks can do some other things. Maybe.
I haven't seen the contract, but my hunch is it's very little or no signing bonus, and therefore he's not even promised a roster spot. See what you look like in camp, and from the Texans' perspective, you got nothing to lose.
And the Texans, I think it's another thing we're like, well, we're going to run the ball, and so Nick's available for next to nothing. We're going to bring
need him.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate that's where he's at in his career because he was on like a Hall of Fame pace.
Unbelievable player. I think you nailed it. We're talking about just pure ball carriers of this generation. I mean,
he might be the best. Yeah.
Well, that's what's going on around the NFL with Minicamp Open. Get your questions in for this week's mailbag on Thursday's episode. And that is at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Drop a question or a comment on YouTube. And Matt and I will be back tomorrow right here. Peacock and Williamson.